Ross, I want to ask you something. Here.
Feel free.
There was an article written by John Ralph today, and he didn't come out and say Nathan has lost his players, but he did it in a roundabout way. He said senior players love Nathan Buckley, good bloke, but now many who have put unwavering faith in his direction have expressed to friends and confidants that there's little spark, little energy at the club. They wonder what a new coach would do to enliven a team and club that has become mediocre in many ways. So how would you...
Well, the first thing you do, get rid of the pity party in the corner that are talking to each other and, take ownership of what you can control in your performance. I just think, you know what? Any list, there's going to be players a bit disaffected, and when you're losing, they've lost 7 of their best 22. Howe's out, Roughhead was out. I just think strong boards, and this is a test for strong boards, don't wobble, don't submit, they don't let the tail wag the dog. I think it's mischievous. I think it's an easy article to write, and that's not chipping on Ralph, but he really hasn't backed it up with, you need to apply rigour. I just think Collingwood, a strong board, strong management, Righty's in there, he'll make the judgment. Players don't appoint coaches, boards and football operation managers do.
Ed, you've got some concerns. I mean, you've been in the media for 40 years.
Yeah.
You've got some real concerns about the media at the moment.
I just find that every time I pick up a paper or watch a show, and we're doing one right now, that all that happens is that everyone should be sacked, everyone's an idiot. The crowds, we're going to have a look at the crowds at the moment, and people have been talking, in fact we might throw that up as well, just the attendances, and people are saying, the attendances are down 37,000 in 2019, 27,322 at the moment, but they don't take into account that there was 2 games over in Western Australia, including a derby that had no crowd. I'm just looking here, I've got some stats on it. People forgot, we're coming out of COVID. This time last year we didn't have a game.
Well, we can't get people back to workplaces.
Exactly.
Let alone to the footy. I think there's still, for want of a better term, a hangover, a transition period out of COVID. A week ago, we felt like we were going back into lockdown because it was happening in Perth. It was red alert. So people are gun shy and won't be taking any risk with their freedom.
Over 1 million people have signed up as members, which is unbelievable. Collingwood, by the way, 80,000 members plus at the moment, so things aren't that bad. Biggest sporting crowd in the world, Anzac Day, 78,000. Would have been 95 if you could have got them in, but it was at 85%. 5 top sporting crowds in the country since COVID, and that's basically where it's at. So I just think that at the moment there's just so much scrutiny. Now, I don't want it to be Pollyanna. I mean, I used to break stories for a living. That's why I'm sitting here. But I just think sometimes we are just kicking the game so much that we're telling people not to come. KO, it's off the charts. It has gone nuts. People.
Geez, I left Anzac Day thinking footy's back. Well, what a great day.
The on-field stuff is really, really good at the moment, but I wanted to show some old vision, Ed, and you did this story at Moorabbin. You actually did this story, and the passion and the vibe. This is some of the vision now, right? This is Moorabbin heaving.
This is the last game at Moorabbin.
Last game ever at Moorabbin. This is the players coming off the field. Then after this, we're going to have a look, Ed, at Teddy Whitten's last game. Just when football, it was the passion for the game. Dougie Hawkins playing. This is the stands going nuts. This is, I think, Anzac Day, one of the 1995. This is the prelim, when Essendon came back. Obviously, the Crows were going nuts in their state. And then there's a grand final. Like Geelong, I'm just not sure. I reckon fans are a little bit disengaged. And we were talking pre-show, Roosie, about, when we all played and you'd turn up and you'd play in the curtain raiser and the fans were there to see the next young kid coming through. And the next, why have we lost some of those great traditions? We could maybe bring some of these people back to the game.
I think if I was running the AFL, the first thing I would do is bring curtain raisers back. I mean, we touched on it. I remember going and watching the seconds play. And
I used to kick the Jew off.
Your nan was there,
Yeah,
mate.
my nan was there every week.
Your nan was at the top of the race. And I remember a lot of people, we don't have under-19s now, Ed, obviously, but I just think the fundamental of that, and having coached Melbourne, understanding where we're at as a footy club, people not only wanted to see our senior team, they wanted to see our seconds. They knew we were in a rebuilding phase. They wanted to see where the next generation. But it's a long way to go from the MCG out to Casey and what's.
And it was a thrill to play the curtain raiser. The under-19, you get elevated. Or there was an under-19 game scare. It was a thrill. So some of those traditions, society's changed a bit. We understand that.
But I think what happens is the players, I wanted the boys to, at one stage I suggested, why don't we sing the song, in the goal square with the cheer squad? Why do we go down in the room where it's pretty sterile and all that? So it's great and it's for the players and I understand and we didn't go on with it. But I would have loved to have seen that. You know, we had a thing for a while at Collingwood, the huddle, where they'd go down and stand in the goal square, all link up before the game. The crowd would go nuts and the boys loved it and away they went. You've got to give the supporters a lot more. Now, I think, you know, one of the great things was Thursday night trainings. Now, it's quite funny to me. We actually play at night and train in the daytime. In the old days, we used to train at night and play in the daytime. So it gets a bit back to front. But I would love to maybe once a month, you know, if the AFL said, and remembering the players have got to train and do everything right, but if they could have a night training session where everyone could come and you have a bit of a pie night afterwards or something.
Well, of course you can. When we used to play at ANZ Stadium, and it was a night game, we would go there and train at night. So players can train at night. Yeah. I think as clubs, that fan engagement and giving them access and engagement is really important.
We have to cut them a fair bit of slack at the moment because the COVID situation has just made it impossible to do anything. So
well, you can't change base.
But as we come out of it, I think we should be looking at that.
Well, it's interesting. I was sitting in the MCG in the Bay N15 or whatever, and then they come to get their pies, and they can't. If you go out, you can't cross back because of the COVID restrictions. So there are some difficulties logistically returning football to normal.
I think also to Lloyd's point, I think there's educational phases as well. I mean, one of the biggest things that we did when I took over at Sydney, Rossi, was we reconnected to the Bloods, the South Melbourne Football Club, and that was huge. And I also remember one time, I think it was 2002 when I was in the interim period, we took a group of young players down to Melbourne in finals week, and Essendon were playing in the finals, and we took them to Windy Hill. We took them to Junction Oval. Melbourne were playing as well, and we walked through the Hall of Fame. I took the players through the Hall of Fame, and Robert Shaw saw me. It was a bit embarrassing. He invited me to come up, and Sheeds come and grabbed my players when I was coaching and spoke to them before the game. So I think
that's important.
I think the effort of clubs, coaches, players to embrace the past is really important as well.
It's amazing you say that because Essendon didn't take their Hall of Fame from Windy Hill across to their new hangar, and it's something that a lot of people said Essendon's lost its soul in a sense, whereas now Ben Rutten, Kevin Sheedy, they're training at Windy Hill once a week. The Hall of Fame that's now going to be rebuilt and plonked straight in the hangar.
Well, Adelaide had the same problem. So McLeod come out and said, I go into those rooms and there's no honour boards. There's no back-to-back. He couldn't show his son where he existed within the club.
And a lot of that, I reckon, Ross, is, and I've watched it as a reporter all the way through, as soon as money came into the game, which is not a bad thing, we love that, but people then thought they had to be professional. And by being professional, they thought you couldn't have fun anymore. And you couldn't like the things that you used to have. And I know even Collingwood, when we're playing Carlton, the boys are, come on, can you give the boys a bit of a jab every now and again? You know, we owe this mob, and I'd love doing it, and they'd love it and have a bit of fun about it. But I just think sometimes we overdo it, and you know, yes, they've got to have the best physical training, but come on, let them, you know.
I think it's all about balance, isn't it? Because you don't want to wallow in the past either. I mean, that's held a few clubs back as well. So you've got to get it right. You've got to respect your past, and you've got to say to the players, well, you're now here. Matty Lloyd used to play, or Hurdy used to play, or
even the sports science. Like we were pretty strict, like the condition, and then like Richmond, you know, Brian Waldron, you can learn a lot off the Storm. They win, they have a couple of beers after the game, so we took that to the Dockers. Like we had to hide the beers, and like most clubs do, but in the rooms, in the private player room, I was the first one to open one up and enjoy it with the players. It was a fantastic tradition.
Good on you guys. So I think there's some upside to come for the football. It's not all doom and gloom. There's plenty of issues around, no doubt about it. We don't need to beat things up. You can do them one at a time.